One second changed everything. There was life before and life after. There are moments in life that don't arrive slowly. They don't warn you. They don't ease you in. They hit you in 1 second and split your life into two parts. Everything before that second and everything after it. One breath ago, life felt familiar. One breath later, nothing made sense anymore. You don't prepare for moments like that. You don't rehearse them. They arrive without asking, and when they do, they take something from you that never fully comes back. In that second, the future you imagined disappears. The memories you trusted start to feel strange. Even your past feels different because now you see it through a new lens. The plans, the promises, the sense of safety you believed in, all of it collapses without noise. This is how reality breaks. Not with drama, not with shouting, but with silence. 1 second is all it takes to learn that life can change without caring how ready you are. When shock steals your voice and time freezes in place, shock doesn't look the way people expect. It isn't always tears or shouting. Sometimes it's stillness. Sometimes it's your body standing there while your mind can't catch up. You want to move, but you can't. You want to speak, but the words don't come. Time doesn't move forward. It just hangs there, heavy and quiet. Your heart is racing, yet everything around you feels slow. You hear sounds, but they don't register. You see things, but they feel unreal. This is the moment when your body protects you by shutting down feeling. Not because you're weak, but because the truth is too much to take all at once. People don't talk enough about this part, the part where you don't react at all, where you don't know what to do, so you do nothing. And in that stillness, you realize how fragile certainty really is. How do you breathe when the people you trust become strangers? How do you breathe when trust breaks right in front of you? How do you stand steady when the people you leaned on suddenly feel unfamiliar? One moment, they were part of your world. The next moment, they feel like someone you never truly knew. That's when the inside starts to collapse, not loudly. Quietly, you start questioning everything. Every memory, every smile, every moment you thought was real. Your chest feels tight because your mind is searching for answers that don't exist yet. This kind of pain doesn't just hurt your heart. It shakes your sense of safety. It makes you doubt your own judgment. And in that moment, you're not just dealing with betrayal. You're dealing with confusion, fear, and a deep sense of loss that words can't explain. Everything looked normal, but beneath it, something was already broken. From the outside, everything looked fine. The routines were the same. The conversation sounded normal. Life moved forward like nothing was wrong. But beneath the surface, something had already cracked. And cracks don't always show right away. They hide behind smiles. They stay quiet during everyday moments. They grow slowly, unnoticed, until one day they can no longer stay hidden. This is what makes betrayal so painful. Not just what happened, but how long it was happening while you believed everything was okay. You realize that normal was only a cover, that what you trusted wasn't as solid as you thought. And that realization changes you, because once you see that something was broken long before it fell apart, you understand a hard truth. Reality doesn't always break suddenly. Sometimes it breaks quietly, and you only hear it when it's already too late. The silent betrayals. I do read the small signs you explained away to keep the peace. Before the truth explodes, it usually whispers. It shows up as small moments you brush off, a strange tone, a changed habit, a feeling you can't explain. But instead of listening, you make excuses. You tell yourself you're overthinking. You say it's not worth starting trouble. You choose calm over clarity. This is how peace becomes expensive. You pay for it with your instincts. You trade honesty for comfort. And slowly, you start adjusting yourself to fit situations that don't feel right. Many people do this every day at work, in relationships, and families. They notice something feels off, then immediately talk themselves out of it, not because they're blind, but because they're afraid of what seeing clearly might cost them. You felt something was wrong, so why did you silence yourself? That feeling didn't come from nowhere. It came from patterns you noticed, from moments that didn't line up, from silence where answers should have been. But instead of listening to that inner warning, you pushed it down. You told yourself to be patient, to be understanding, to wait. Why do we do that? Because trusting your own voice can feel risky, because speaking up can change everything, and change feels scary. So you doubt yourself instead. You question your own thoughts. You wonder if you're being unfair. And that inner conflict grows louder while you pretend it's not there. The truth is, your instincts don't shout, they whisper. And when you silence them long enough, the cost becomes much higher than the discomfort you were trying to avoid, ignoring. The truth doesn't make you loyal. It makes you vulnerable. Let me tell you something straight. Staying quiet in the face of wrong doesn't make you strong. It doesn't make you faithful. It leaves you exposed. When you ignore what you know, you don't protect relationships. You weaken yourself, because truth doesn't disappear when you avoid it. It waits. And when it finally surfaces, it hurts more. Many people believe endurance equals strength, that staying silent means being mature. But silence can become self-betrayal. Every time you look away from what's real, you teach others how much they can get away with. You also teach yourself that your feelings don't matter, and that belief slowly breaks your confidence. Truth may be uncomfortable, but avoiding it doesn't make life easier. It only makes the fall harder. Cracks don't collapse a house in. One day they do it over time. A house doesn't fall because of one small crack. It falls because that crack was ignored, day after day, season after season. The same is true in life. Damage doesn't always come from one big moment. It comes from many small ones left unattended. Think about what you've been overlooking. The conversations you avoided, the feelings you buried, the signs you explained away. Those things don't disappear. They stack. And one day, you look around and wonder how everything fell apart so fast. It wasn't fast, it was slow. And now that you see it, you understand this truth. Paying attention early hurts less than repairing everything later when betrayal comes from. Both Jair said this wasn't just betrayal, it was a violation from every side. Some pain cuts deeper because it comes from more than one place. This wasn't just trust broken, it was safety torn apart. When betrayal comes from opposite directions, it doesn't just wound your heart, it shakes your sense of order. You're not just hurt, you're disoriented. This kind of pain forces you to face a hard truth. The place you thought was safe wasn't. The people you trusted crossed lines that should never be crossed. And that realization feels heavy, because now you're not just dealing with loss. You're dealing with shock, anger, and disbelief all at once. This wasn't a mistake. This was a deep breach that changed how you see people forever. I trusted him, I welcomed her, and that's what hurt the most. Trust is given in layers. You trusted one with your life. You welcomed the other with open arms. And that's why it hurts the way it does. Not because of what they did alone, but because of what you gave them. Time, belief, space in your world. You replay moments in your mind, conversations, smiles, promises, and each memory feels different now. This pain isn't loud anger. It's quiet disbelief. It's the ache of realizing that kindness was used against you, and that realization stings deeply because it makes you wonder if being open was a mistake. But it wasn't. The mistake was theirs. Trust was never the weakness. How? Do you protect your child when the danger is inside your home? This is where fear changes shape. It's no longer just about you. It's about responsibility, about protection, about knowing that harm didn't come from outside, but from within. And that knowledge is terrifying. Your mind races. Your heart feels heavy. You question how to move forward when the threat wore a familiar face. This is a moment that forces strength out of you, whether you feel ready or not. Because when it comes to protecting those you love, hesitation disappears. You don't need all the answers. You just need the courage to act. Even when your heart is breaking, Dot, it's not the knife that breaks you, it's who's holding it pain. Isn't measured by what happened, it's measured by who caused it. The wound hurts because of the closeness, because of the trust, because of the bond. When harm comes from strangers, it stings. When it comes from loved ones, it shakes your core. This kind of pain lingers. Not because you're weak, but because it touched something deep. And healing from this requires honesty with yourself first. You don't rush past it, you face it. And in doing so, you learn something important. The depth of your pain reflects the depth of your ability to trust. And that ability is still worth protecting the moment you realize it's not your fault. The first lie you believe is that you should have been better after betrayal. The mind looks inward. You start asking what you missed, what you did wrong, what you should have changed. This is the first lie pain tells you. That if you were smarter, kinder, stronger, this wouldn't have happened. But listen carefully. Someone else's choice does not come from your shortcomings. You didn't cause it by trusting. You didn't invite it by caring. Blame feels familiar because it gives the illusion of control. But it's false control. And it keeps you stuck in guilt that doesn't belong to you. Let me tell you something clearly. This was never your failure. Let me tell you something clearly. What someone else chose to do is not a reflection of your worth. You didn't fail. You were honest in a situation where honesty wasn't returned. That doesn't make you foolish. It makes you human. Clarity begins when you separate responsibility from regret. You are responsible for your healing, not for their actions. And once you understand that, something shifts. The weight begins to lift. You stop carrying what was never yours to hold. And that moment brings relief you didn't know you needed. You didn't cause it. You didn't invite it. You didn't deserve it. Hear this and let it settle. You didn't cause it. You didn't invite it. You didn't deserve it. Say it again if you need to. Because pain tries to rewrite truth. And truth needs repetition to be believed. You showed trust. You showed care. Those are strengths, not mistakes. And one day, you'll see that clearly. The blame ends here. This is where self-respect begins again. Slowly, quietly, honestly. Storms don't ask permission. They just reveal what was never stable. Storms don't ask if you're ready. They arrive and expose what was already fragile. The storm didn't create weakness. It revealed it. And now that you see it, you're no longer walking in confusion. This moment doesn't define your end. It marks your awareness. And awareness is power. From here on, you build on truth, not illusion. And that foundation, though painful to reach, will hold you stronger than anything built on denial ever could. The pain that either breaks you or builds why, oh, pain is a crossroads. What you do next decides everything. Pain places you at a turning point, whether you ask for it or not. You don't choose the moment it arrives, but you do choose what happens next. This is where many lives quietly change direction. Some people turn inward and close off. Others stand still, hoping time will fix what only courage can heal. And some decide to move forward, even while hurting. Pain doesn't come with instructions. It simply asks one question: what will you do now? Will you stay where you are, replaying what went wrong? Or will you take one small step forward, even? If you're unsure, this crossroads doesn't care about comfort. It cares about growth. And every choice you make from here shapes the person you become next. This pain will either make you bitter or make you unbreakable. Pain always leaves a mark. The question is what kind. If you hold on to anger, it hardens you. If you bury hurt, it weighs you down. But if you face pain honestly, it strengthens you. Not overnight. Slowly. Many people carry pain for years and wonder why life feels heavy. It's because pain was never meant to be carried forever. It was meant to be understood. Let me tell you something important. What you don't face will follow you, and what you face will teach you. This pain can close your heart, or it can deepen it. The difference isn't what happened. It's what you choose to do with it. What if this isn't the end, but the beginning of something stronger? What if this moment isn't here to finish you, but to change you? What if what you lost made room for something more honest? Stronger doesn't mean harder. It means clearer. It means wiser. It means no longer pretending. Many people look back at their hardest seasons and realize something later, that the pain pushed them to grow in ways comfort never could. At the time, it felt like loss. Later, it felt like truth. You don't need to see the full picture right now. You only need to stay open to the idea that this moment could lead somewhere better than where you were. Fire doesn't ask if you're ready, it reveals. What you're made of fire doesn't wait for permission. It burns away what can't last. And what remains is real. Pain works the same way. It strips away false strength and leaves you with something solid. You may feel tested. You may feel exposed, but understand this. What survives this season is not fragile, it's honest. You're learning what matters. You're learning what doesn't. And in that process, you're becoming someone who doesn't break easily because you're no longer built on illusion. Losing who you thought you'd be where the roles fall apart and you don't know who you are anymore when life changes suddenly, roles disappear. You're no longer who you thought you were. The labels fall away, and without them, you feel lost. This can be one of the hardest parts. Not the pain itself, but the confusion that follows. You wake up and realize you don't recognize your place in the world anymore, and that uncertainty feels scary. But it's also honest, because sometimes losing an identity is the first step to finding a truer one. What feels like loss is actually spaced at the emptiness that comes when the old version of you is gone. There's a quiet emptiness that comes after loss. Not loud grief, just silence. The old version of you no longer fits, but the new one hasn't formed yet. This space feels uncomfortable, but it's necessary. Many people rush to fill this emptiness with distractions, but growth needs stillness. This is the pause between chapters. And though it feels uncertain, it's not meaningless. Something new is forming beneath the surface, even if you can't see it yet. Who are you when the titles disappear and the silence answers back? When no one is watching, who are you? When there's no role to play, no one to please, no image to protect, what remains? These questions don't need quick answers. They mean honesty. This is where self-discovery begins. Not with noise, but with listening. You start learning what you value, what you won't accept again. And slowly, a clearer version of you begins to take shape, looking in the mirror and not recognizing the person staring back. There's a moment when you look at yourself and feel unfamiliar. Not because you're lost, but because you've changed. The mirror reflects someone who has seen truth, someone quieter, stronger in ways that don't show. This isn't failure, it's growth. You're no longer who you were, and that's okay, because who you're becoming understands themselves better. And that understanding is the foundation of real strength. The day you stop protecting people who hurt YOUs, silence didn't keep the peace, it cost me myself. Silence feels safe at first. It avoids conflict. It keeps things calm. But over time, silence becomes heavy. It costs you your voice, your needs, your sense of self. Every time you stay quiet to keep others comfortable, you move further away from yourself. And one day, you realize peace built on silence isn't peace at all. It's self-neglect. And that realization changes everything. Enough is not cool, enough is necessary. Let me be clear. Saying enough doesn't make you heartless. It makes you honest. Boundaries aren't walls. They're doors with rules. And rules protect what matters. You're allowed to decide what you will accept. You're allowed to step back from what harms you. This isn't about punishment. It's about care. Care for yourself. And that matters. You can't heal in the same place that broke you. Healing needs space. It needs distance from what caused the wound. Staying in harmful spaces out of fear only deepens the pain. Sometimes strength means leaving, changing, choosing something different. Not because you gave up, but because you chose yourself. Healing begins when you stop reopening the same wound. You don't stay in a burning house to prove loyalty if a house is on fire. You don't stay inside to show devotion. You leave. You protect yourself. The same applies to harmful relationships. Walking away doesn't erase love. It protects life. And choosing safety over suffering is not weakness. It's wisdom, reclaiming your voice and your night to live a day. Stop shrinking to make others comfortable. There comes a day when you stop making yourself smaller. When you realize comfort for others has cost you too much. That day changes how you stand, speak, and live. You don't need permission to be yourself. You don't need approval to exist fully. Taking up space isn't wrong. It's natural. What happens when you speak the truth without apology? Truth spoken calmly is powerful. It doesn't need to be loud. It just needs to be honest. And when you speak it, something shifts. You feel lighter, clearer. Not because everything is fixed, but because you're no longer hiding. And that honesty builds inner strength that can't be taken from you. I stood up. I spoke up. I chose myself. This is where change becomes real. Standing up isn't about anger. It's about self-respect. Speaking up isn't about blame. It's about truth. Choosing yourself doesn't mean rejecting others. It means no longer abandoning yourself. And that choice reshapes your life. Your voice isn't noise, it's power. Your voice carries your truth. It deserves to be heard. Not because it's perfect, but because it's yours. When you speak from honesty, you step into dignity. And dignity changes how you move through the world, quietly, strongly, fully. The strength nitrogen monoxide, one saw sayo mind. They thought this would destroy me, but something quiet grew. Instead, some people expected this moment to end me. They thought the pain would crush my spirit, slow my steps, and shrink my life. From the outside, probably looked like I was falling apart. I wasn't loud about my healing. I wasn't making speeches. I was just surviving one day at a time, and in that quiet space, something unexpected began to grow. Not anger, not hardness, strength. The kind that forms slowly, the kind that doesn't need attention. While others were watching from my fall, I was learning how to stand again, not the same way as before, stronger in a deeper way. This is what people often miss. Real strength doesn't rush to prove itself. It grows patiently out of sight until one day it's impossible to ignore. Strength isn't always loud. Sometimes it survives in silence. Retaught to believe strength has to be visible. Loud words, bold moves, big reactions. But some of the strongest people you'll ever meet are quiet. They carry their weight without asking anyone to notice. Strength can look like getting up when no one knows how hard it is. It can look like choosing peace instead of argument, like staying kind even after being hurt. Silence doesn't mean weakness. Sometimes it means control. Sometimes it means wisdom. Sometimes it means you're conserving your energy for what truly matters. If your strength hasn't been seen, that doesn't mean it isn't real. It means it's still growing. Healing happens when no one is watching. Most healing doesn't happen in front of others. It happens late at night, in quiet mornings, in small choices you make when no one is there to see them. It happens when you choose rest instead of running, when you reflect instead of reacting. This kind of healing isn't dramatic. It's steady. You learn how to calm your thoughts, how to trust yourself again, how to breathe through moments that used to overwhelm you. No one may notice these changes right away, but you do. And that's enough, because healing isn't about being seen. It's about becoming whole again. Roots grow in the dark. Even when no one applauds, roots don't grow in the light. They grow underground, in darkness, in silence. And without roots, nothing stands tall for long. Your growth doesn't need an audience. It needs time. If you feel unseen right now, remember this. What's growing beneath the surface matters more than what shows on the outside. One day, the strength you built quietly will support everything you become. And when that day comes, you'll know the truth. Nothing was wasted. Turning betrayal into banishment. Their proof of self-respect. Boundaries aren't about pushing people away. They're about protecting what matters. They don't come from anger. They come from understanding your worth. When you set boundaries, you're saying, this is how I take care of myself. It's not harsh to decide what you allow in your life. It's healthy. You can be kind and still be firm. You can care and still say no. Boundaries don't make you distant. They make your relationships clearer. And clarity builds safety, not distance. From now on, access is earned, not assumed. Not everyone deserves the same level of closeness. Trust isn't automatic anymore. It's built slowly, through actions, through honesty, through respect. From now on, you decide who gets access to your time, your energy, and your heart. This isn't about holding grudges. It's about being mindful. When someone shows you who they are, believe them. Let their actions guide how close they're allowed to stand. Not everyone deserves a front row seat in your life. Your life has limited space. Not everyone can sit close. Some people belong in the background, some on the edges. And that's okay. You don't owe everyone full access. You owe yourself peace. Choosing who stays close is an act of care, not rejection. When you protect your space, you protect your growth. I didn't harden. I got clear. I didn't shut down. I opened my eyes. I didn't become cold. I became aware. Clarity changes how you move. You stop explaining yourself to people who don't listen. You stop waiting for others to change. You learn to trust your judgment again, and that clarity brings calm. Because you know where you stand, and you know what you will no longer accept. Message to anyone, Betrayal, if you're listening with a heavy heart. This is for you if you're carrying pain quietly. This moment is for you. If you've been strong for everyone else but tired inside, hear this. You're not alone in this feeling. Betrayal hurts deeply because it breaks trust, and trust matters. What you're feeling is real, and it deserves care, not shame. Do you still believe this pain gets to define you? Pain changes you, but it doesn't own you. It doesn't get to decide your future. It doesn't get to tell you who you are. Ask yourself this. Will this moment shape you, or will it trap you? You have more choice than you think, and that choice begins now. You are not weak. You are not broken. You are not finished. Say it again. You are not weak. You are not broken. You are not finished. You're still here, still learning, still growing, surviving what you've been through. Take strength even if it doesn't feel like it yet, then that strength will carry you forward. Scars don't mean you lost, they mean you survived. Scars tell a story, not of failure, but of survival. They show where you were hurt and where you healed. You didn't lose because you were wounded. You lived through it, and that matters more than you realize. The rise not despite the pain. But because of I to this pain wasn't the end, it was the turning point. This moment didn't stop your life. It redirected it. It showed you what matters and what doesn't. It opened your eyes. What feels heavy now will make sense later. This pain didn't come to destroy you. It came to wake you up. Stand up. Choose yourself. Walk forward without apology. Stand up for your peace. Choose yourself without guilt. Walk forward without explaining your worth. You don't need permission to move on. You don't need approval to live fully. This is your life. I didn't break. I woke up. I didn't break under pressure. I became aware. I saw clearly. I chose differently. Awareness changes everything. Once you see the truth, you can't unsee it, and that awareness becomes your strength. What tried to bury you became the soil that grew you. What was meant to end you fed your growth instead. What tried to bury you became the ground you rose from, and now you stand taller, rooted deeper, ready for what comes next.